Chapter 9. Joey whipped a few more times. Joey whipped a few more turns, skidding on pavement, which evoked a huge gasp from Breeze. He flew down 2 more blocks, turned sharply, and stopped abruptly in a parking space in front of an adorable all-night diner. Breeze sat up. Oops. Said I lost connection. Bree sat up, glared angrily at Joey. You could have killed us back there, she complained. Joey laughed. Not hardly. I thought you wanted me to drive fast. I did, but you could have warned me. You just like to fight, don't you? I don't know what you're talking about. He smiled and waited. Finally, she smiled back. Maybe I do. Do what? Like to fight? With you, I do. Well, I'll take that as a compliment, he said as he got out of the car. He went around to open the door for her, and this time she let him. More than likely, he mused, due to her inebriated condition. He opened her door, knelt down beside her and helped her to get her shoes back on, then pulled her to her feet. She smiled up at him and put her arms around his neck as she stumbled forward. Joey's hands moved to her waist. Steady now, he said softly. Are you sure you can walk? She rolled her eyes. Yes, I can walk. I told you I'm not drunk. He smiled down at her. Okay. Well then, let's... She raised up and kissed him. He reciprocated. She was compliant and warm and sweet. I want you, she whispered. Joey pulled away slightly and kissed her upper lip briefly and smiled at her. You want to forget about the pie? Her eyes opened wide as if she just remembered. The pie? Oh no, of course I don't want to forget the pie. She stepped away and tugged on his hand. Come on, I'm starving. Shaking his head, Joey pointed his remote at the car, locked it, took Breeze by the hand, and escorted her into the diner. Inside was like stepping through time into the 1950s. Yellow vinyl stools stood next to white and black formica counters that ran the length of the place. Along the outer walls and in front of the windows sat red vinyl booths with the same formica-covered tables. A jukebox stood on the back wall in a corner, and a lone waitress looked up from filling stainless steel napkin holders and nodded her head. I'll be with you in a minute. Joey smiled politely and escorted Breeze to a booth, noting the young couple huddled closely together 3 booths down, and a man in a janitor's uniform drinking coffee at the counter. The waitress, a woman in her mid-50s with salt and pepper gray hair and faded lipstick, brought silverware as Joey picked up one of the plastic enclosed menus. You need a minute? The waitress asked. Joey put the menu down. Actually, we're just looking for some pie. Do you have pie? Apple, pecan, and chocolate cream, she rattled off. Joey looked to Breeze, who was wrinkling her nose as she tried to decide. Pecan, she finally said with a nod of her head. Coffee? The woman asked. No, I would like to have a big old glass of milk and a glass of ice to go with it, Breeze said. You want anything? The waitress asked, directing her attention toward Joey. I'll just have a glass of water, Joey said. The woman frowned, and he shrugged. Somebody has to drive. She walked away, apparently not appreciating his sense of humor. Minutes later, Joey watched Breeze, delighting in her alcohol-induced pleasure of eating pecan pie and drinking ice-cold milk. Her eyes closed as she chewed. She was making sounds that took Joey to another world, a forbidden world at this point in time. He glanced around, wondering if anyone was about to, quote, have what she's having, end quote. Her eyes opened and she poured more of her milk over the ice in the second glass, took a big gulp, and set it down. Looking up, she smiled at him. What? She asked. Before he answered, he made note of a woman crossing the street and heading across the parking lot toward the diner. Why don't you just order your milk over ice to begin with? Well, because the longer the milk and ice are together, the more watered down the milk gets, so I just pour enough over the ice to last a few swallows. He smiled at her. You're adorable, you know that? She licked her lips. You really think so? Yeah, I do. He stopped and looked up as the woman came into the diner. The fresh bruise on her face was immediately noticeable, along with the swollen lip, and he sighed and wondered if the whole world had gone crazy. "What are you frowning at?" Breeze asked, eyeing the woman's back as she passed. "Are you making eyes at another woman?" Joey put a finger to his lips. "I'm not stupid, Breeze." He nodded in the woman's direction. "Looks like she's having a bad night." Breeze studied the woman. She wore gray sweatpants, dirty white tennis shoes, a black t-shirt, and a faded red sweater. Breeze couldn't see her face, but she thought she might be young because her blonde hair was long and back in a ponytail. "Excuse me," the woman said to the waitress. "Is it possible that I might use the phone?" The waitress frowned and shook her head. "Sorry, can't let anyone use it. It's a business phone." "Well, it's just that, well, I just need to use it for a second. I need to call a friend for a ride. I'm sort of stranded." The waitress shook her head. "You'll have to look somewhere else." The woman turned to look out the window to the parking lot, and Breeze got her first real look. Breeze's audible gasp caught the woman's attention, and she looked down quickly and pulled her sweater tighter around her as if that would hide the markings on her face. Breeze collected herself quickly, though, and smiled at the woman. "You can use my phone," she offered. "Oh, thank you," the woman said quickly and approached the table. Joey frowned. The woman's voice sounded relieved, but her eyes shone with fear. He sat up straighter and scanned the parking lot and the streets beyond. "Please, sit down a minute," Bree said softly as she moved over and handed her cell phone to the woman. The woman sat on the very edge of the seat and punched in a number on the phone, her eyes searching out the window briefly before she closed them and muttered, "Please answer, please answer." Breeze looked over at Joey and followed his gaze out into the parking lot. "Did you see something?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, but we probably will." "Oh, Linda, thank God you answered." Breeze listened as the woman spoke. "I know it's late, but I need you to come and get me. I realize that, but I have no one else I can call." "Well, I'd rather wait the 2 hours it takes for you to get here than to go back there." "I can't, Linda. It's bad this time. I don't know what he's thinking anymore. I don't know what he'll do." The woman's eyes met Breeze's, and she quickly looked down and lowered her voice. "Last time you asked me why I didn't call you. This time you act like you wish I hadn't called." No, no, I tell you what, just never mind. Just go back to your perfect little life and don't worry about me." "No, you're absolutely right. I made my bed. Yeah, whatever. Sorry to wake you." She ended the call and handed the phone back to Breeze. Thanks," she mumbled. "We can give you a ride," Breeze offered. The woman didn't respond, only looked from Breeze to Joey and back again. "Do you have somewhere you can go?" Joey asked. She looked down. "Not really. You see, my husband, well, I've left him. And my best friend, Linda, she can't help me out right now. You see, she has 2 kids, and she says he'll come looking for me there." "Actually, she's right," Joey said. Breeze raised her eyebrows in surprise. She'd been thinking how selfish this Linda person was for refusing to rescue a friend. Joey glanced at the woman before he turned to Breeze to explain. "I surmise from what, excuse me, what's your name?" he asked the woman. Mia Higgins. "From what Mia said, I suppose her husband is the one who did the damage to her face, and an angry spouse is very unpredictable and can end up committing some pretty heinous acts. There's no reason to put her friend's family in any danger." "Well, then what do you suggest? Are you suggesting a shelter of some kind?" Breeze asked Joey. "Look, I appreciate you letting me use your phone, but I don't want to be any trouble. I have a brother who lives in Nevada. Maybe I can give him a call." "A brother? That would be better," Bree said kindly, glancing at Joey for approval. He nodded thoughtfully. "It's just that," Mia continued, "last time I saw him, he told me that I'm nothing but trouble and don't come back until I get myself straightened out." Joey cocked his head. "Straightened out? Are you using?" Joey asked. "No, I mean, not drugs. I was drinking pretty heavily at the time, but Not anymore, I swear. Oh, poor thing, Breeze complained. Joey, we have to do something to help her. Joey nodded. We have to figure out a place she can go to be safe until I have a chance to speak with her husband. Oh, no. No, you can't. He's, I mean, he's very big and he's a coward with issues, and any man who hits on a woman is nothing more than a coward. Where can she go? I mean, are you speaking about a shelter? Breeze asked. Well, yes and no. I know the perfect place she can stay until we get this worked out. Before Breeze could ask another question, Joey looked Mia over. Have you told me the truth? Mia frowned. What do you mean? Your name is Mia Higgins. You're clean. Do you have any children? No, but well, the bruises on your face, your husband did that tonight? Yes, she muttered. If I get you some help, will you accept it? Joey asked. She stopped, looked back and forth between Breeze and Joey. I don't even know who you are. Of course, Breeze said, patting Mia's hand. We could be some weird perverts. She rifled through her purse and pulled out her ID and laid it on the table in front of Mia. I'm Bree Sheridan. I guess that doesn't really tell you anything. She motioned toward Joey, but you might recognize Joey Adams. He's been in a few movies with Ricky Kino. He's Ricky's stepbrother. He fights in the Kino challenges. The girl really looked at Joey for the first time, her eyes registering recognition. Joey sighed and pulled out his security badge. I'm an agent for Ameritech Security. Ameritech? They supply bodyguards for celebrities, right? Well, that's one of our many functions. Are you suggesting that you would help protect me? Joey shook his head. Well, no offense, but you couldn't afford me. Anyway, I have someone much better than me in mind. Who? Breeze and Mia asked at the same time. My boss's wife. Her name is Angel Lee. Angel runs self-defense schools and shelters for victims of domestic violence all across the country. So this Angel, she has a place for me to stay? Yes. I can get her on the phone right now, but you have to tell me that you're willing to help yourself and that you're willing to get out of the situation you're in and you're not going to go running back to your husband in a few days or a few weeks. Statistics show that he's not going to change. So that means you have to be strong and do what it takes to get yourself out. Angel will help you. There are funds set aside, counselors to help, along with a network of women who are going through the same thing you are. He stopped and smiled kindly. So, do you think you can do this? She nodded. I would have left sooner if I thought he'd let me. You don't know him. He's persistent. I'm still afraid he'll find me. Well, trust me, he won't find you. Not an Angel's organization. She's married to the owner of the world's top security agency. Joey touched a few buttons on his phone and placed it to his ear. Angel, this is Joey. No, it's you I want to talk to. I got a project for you. Her name is Mia Higgins. Actually, she's sitting with me and my date at a dinner on North Harbor Drive. Yes. Yes. Yeah, her face is pretty beat up, has nowhere to go. She's scared. Got it. Got it. Will do. On my way. Thanks. Joey closed the phone and smiled at Mia. So, I'm supposed to take you straight to Angel's house for now. You'll stay there tonight and she'll take it from there. Mia nodded. Thank you, but what about my job? Well, I don't know about the particulars, but Angel will work with you to get your life back on track. She'll have the answers to your questions. I can tell you this. If your husband is like you say he is, you show up at your job tomorrow, you or someone else could end up dead. Do you want to take that chance? She shook her head as the trauma of the night finally caught up with her and tears began to fall. Oh, poor dear. It's going to be okay, Mia, Bree said. Please, let Angel help you. You deserve so much more than being knocked around like some punching bag. Mia nodded. Let's go, Joey said firmly. He slapped a 20 on the table. The trio rose and started to leave, but Breeze turned back and addressed the waitress. You should be ashamed of yourself, she said, her voice hitching with emotion. There are times that we need to stick together, you know? I mean, us women. I know you could see that someone had beat up on her. She only asked to use the phone. What if it had been your sister or your daughter? Shame on you. Shame. She turned and walked toward the door. Joey looked at the ashen-faced waitress and then at the gorgeous face of the woman walking toward him, glowing with righteous indignation. He smiled at her as she approached, his heart tumbling with admiration and love. "Atta girl," he mumbled as he put his arm around her and they walked out the door. Joey scanned the lot, walked quickly toward the car. Breeze walked slower, staying beside Mia. "You okay?" she asked when Mia stopped. Mia's eyes opened wide, her fear palpable. "Oh, no," she cried. Before Breeze knew what was happening, Mia took off running toward the east side of the parking lot. There was nothing on that side except an open lot and then a line of trees. "No!" Joey yelled as he started running. Breeze turned to see a large late model pickup coming screeching from the gas station across the street, barreling through the diner parking lot, headed straight for Mia. "No!" Breeze screamed. The truck barely missed Mia, but stopped in front of her, cutting her off from the empty lot she'd been heading for. Mia turned and headed back toward Breeze. Breeze looked past Mia to see a huge man spring from the truck and run toward them. It was Joey's voice that got her moving. "Get her back in the diner and call 911, Joey yelled at Breeze. Breeze grabbing Mia's hand. "Come on," she yelled and jerked her arm. The two women ran inside. "Call 911, Breeze commanded of the waitress who was already on the phone. The woman nodded. Breeze and Mia turned to watch. Breeze gasped when she saw just how huge Mia's husband was. "Geez, he's a giant," Breeze exclaimed. "He'll kill him," Mia said softly as if she were already mourning Joey's death. From what Joey could tell, the man was unarmed. Joey held up his hands. "Stop right there, buddy." The man stopped and smiled. "You think you can keep me away from my wife?" Joey nodded solemnly. "Yes, I do." The man nodded. "Bring it on, you little pig." "No, I'd rather not," Joey said. "We've called the police, so you might as well just have a seat here on the sidewalk and we'll just wait for them." The man's eyes blazed with rage. "That witch called the police on me?" He moved forward. "I'll give her a reason," he muttered as he moved toward Joey. Breeze watched through the window, her hand over her mouth. It was like something out of the Bourne movies. Joey moved so fast she could hardly tell what was happening. Joey spun, his hands, feet, and elbows moved so fast they were a blur. But next thing she knew, Joey was leaning over Mia's husband, who lay flat on his back in the middle of the parking lot. It was about the time that the police came screeching into the lot, jumped from their cars, their weapons drawn. Joey immediately put his hands in the air. Breeze watched as the police moved toward Joey and directed him onto his knees and then onto his stomach, and they moved fast then and ran forward and cuffed him. Mia and Breeze ran out the door. "He's the one," Mia yelled, pointing at her husband. "He's the one who did this to me. He was going to kill me. That guy, that's Joey Adams. He helped me." It took almost 30 minutes and a call to Jason Lee at Ameritech Security before Joey and Breeze had been allowed to leave, Mia in tow. When they pulled up to Jason's house, Mia couldn't stop exclaiming. The place was impressive, Joey admitted, eyeing the two-story white marble mansion enclosed in high-tech security gates and lit up on all sides. Joey and Breeze escorted Mia to the door. They were met by Jason and Angel. "Miss Sheridan," Jason said, nodding at Breeze. "Mr. Lee," Breeze returned, smiling sweetly. "Come in," Jason said as he stepped back. Breeze nodded at a tall, slender woman with a warm smile and blonde hair that was cut in a sleek bob. "This is my wife, Angel," Jason said. Breeze smiled and extended her hand. "Hi, I'm Breeze." "Hey," Angel said kindly, and then reached out toward Mia. "You must be Mia. Please come in," Angel said, her sweet southern accent noticeable. "I know things seem pretty bleak right now, but believe me when I say everything is going to be okay." Mia smiled. "Thank you." "Well, we won't keep you," Joey said. Mia turned and hugged him. "Thank you so much." She broke away and hugged Breeze. "You're so kind. Thank you." Breeze brushed a wisp of hair from Mia's face. "I'm glad we were there to help. You be strong." She looked up at Angel. "I have a feeling we're leaving you in great hands." "An understatement," Jason said with pride. A few minutes later, Joey and Breeze were back in the car, headed toward Breeze's house. Breeze watched Joey drive as the night's events ran through her mind. You were amazing out there, she said. Joey glanced at her. Give me a break. No, I mean it. He was so big. I was actually worried about you, but you were so, I don't know, so confident. Joey laughed. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Bree smiled. Well, I still think you're cocky. But I guess when one can do what you can do, one has a right to be cocky. Confident, he corrected. She didn't argue. Isn't it weird that your boss's wife runs a national women's shelter? I mean, neither you nor Mr. Lee mentioned that to me this whole time. Joey grinned. Well, that's because you can afford me. Joey pulled up in front of the house and turned off the engine, jumped from the car, opened Breeze's door, and helped her out. She stumbled, but he caught her and picked her up in his arms. You were pretty amazing yourself tonight, he said as he walked up the steps to her front door. How so? She asked as she fished out her keys and handed them to him. He grunted as he handled unlocking the door without putting her down. You jumped right in to help poor Mia. You told off that waitress like a pro, and you got Mia safely inside the diner when I told you to, without any arguing. What's up with that? She shrugged. I guess I knew at the moment that you were the professional, so I did what you said. Believe me, it won't be a recurring event. Joey chuckled as he stepped inside and used his foot to close the door. Now that, I believe, he said as he turned the deadbolt. He moved up the steps. You know, I didn't get to finish my pie. He lowered his head and brushed his lips against her cheek. You're kidding. Are you really hungry? For something, yes. Like what? I don't know, she said coyly. The way those cops manhandled you when you were cuffed, you looked so vulnerable. It was a real turn on. Joey rolled his eyes. You like it when I'm vulnerable? I think I do, she said as he placed her on her bed. He stepped back from her and looked her over as she lay on her bed. Well, then you must like me at this moment because I'm about as vulnerable right now as I've ever been. She smiled. I love it. Well, I don't. Good night, Breeze. Sleep with me, Joey. He shook his head. It's not time. You said you'd stay here tonight. I'll be here. Go to sleep. He turned and left the room. New scene. Good morning, bro, Ricky said cheerfully into his phone. It is indeed, Mark responded as he eyed the woman asleep on his pillow. What are you up to? Me, Taylor, and the boys are cooking breakfast for Bree. Why? Are you in a rush to get Jojo home? No, actually, I just called to tell you that when you drop off Jojo here, go ahead and drop Logan off too. Oh, okay. He paused. Oh. Well, I would say good for you, but I'm not so sure about that. Well, it's not what it sounds like. She slept in my bed, and I stayed on the couch. Playing with fire, Mark. I'm aware. I won't say anything else because I'm sure it would be something you've already said to yourself. I appreciate that. Well, then, we'll see you about 10. 2 hours. That sounds good. Mark ended the call and placed his phone on the bedside table before he laid down in his bed and moved up close behind Bella. She sighed. It didn't take long before she moaned and turned over to face him. Mark, she said softly, you expecting someone else? She sighed. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't dreaming all this. No, you're not dreaming. What we're sharing is very real. She stared at the chest of drawers that was in her line of vision. Is it, Mark? I mean, I have to go home soon, and I want to believe that all this, you and me, it's not just well, I mean, not just a casual fling. No, Bella, this is real. Last night I told you I was falling in love with you, and that was wrong. I'm not falling. I fell. And it's something that can't be changed, and I have no choice in the matter. It has to be you. If I wanted to just find someone to have a relationship with, it wouldn't be a woman in your precarious position. No offense. None taken, she whispered. Listen carefully to me, Bella, because what I'm about to say is important. I'm in love with you. You are sweet and kind and beautiful and strong, intelligent and compassionate, and I'm sorry to be complicating your life, but I have to tell you, I want you. I want you here beside me in my bed, yes, but I mean here with me in my life. I want you out of the dangerous situation you and Logan live in. I want to take you away from that pig of a man who thinks it's okay to use his fists on you. And I want you, Bella, more than I can say." Bella closed her eyes, pretending she was his. They were silent then. There was no room for talking, only feeling, only experiencing warmth, safety, love. She realized she was crying again. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she didn't feel sad. She felt amazingly light and happy. So much had changed over the past few weeks, and so much was about to change, she thought. Mr. Lee and Joey said one more week of gathering evidence. One more week, and they would have enough to file for divorce and win temporary custody of Logan. After that, the chances would be good to get full custody. She knew her son wanted nothing to do with his father, and she knew he would tell a judge that in a second. She didn't know what it was, but suddenly she felt hopeful. She felt almost powerful. She felt stronger than she'd ever felt, and she realized it was Mark's love that was giving her this sudden strength. She didn't feel scared to go back to her house today and wait for Gordon. She felt ready. She would hold her head high because she is not pathetic. She's beautiful and smart and loved. She moved suddenly and placed her hands on Mark's chest and kissed his mouth. She couldn't hold in the sudden joy. She smiled at him. "I love you, Mark." "Well, now, that's—" She placed her hand over his mouth. "No, don't say anything. I love you. You're an amazing man, an amazing person, and I feel amazingly good whenever I'm around you. There's so much about you I love that it will take me eons to say it all, so just believe me when I say I love you." "Okay. And I'm going to go make you the most delicious breakfast you've ever had." She rose up and began moving around the room to find her shoes. Mark watched her. She turned and smiled. "Bella, you are beautiful," he murmured. She gave him a brilliant smile just before she stepped into the bathroom. He heard the shower come on and pictured her lathering her skin. He could hear her humming, and he leaned back against the headboard and smiled. What a night it had been. He didn't want it to be over. They'd eaten and then talked into the wee hours of the morning, and when she'd finally fallen asleep, he carried her into his bed and pulled up the covers and kissed her cheek and left her. He told her he loved her, and now she'd told him the same thing. He sincerely hoped he hadn't jumped the gun, spoken too soon. Oh, he was sure he loved her. Still, did he screw everything up by telling her? No, he couldn't have regrets now. What's done is done, and loving her could never be a mistake. His mind fast-forwarded to the life they would have together, Bella and him and Jojo and Logan, and he frowned. He definitely had always planned on having more children with the woman he married. It was an obstacle to overcome, but he would do some research, or better yet, ask his sister. Jeffy would certainly have the scoop on that. He was sure there would be ways around it. He was pretty sure a tubal ligation could be undone. The bathroom door opened and she walked out, completely dressed, a towel wrapped around her head. "I hope you don't mind. I used your shampoo." "I don't mind if you don't." "I was just thinking in the shower, will you call the Kinos and ask them to drop Logan off here instead of at my house?" "I already did that." "You did? Well, okay then." She smiled and pulled the towel off her hair and ran her fingers through it. "I have to get my brush from my purse," she said before, more to herself than to him. She flashed another bright smile and pointed at Mark. "I'll see you in the kitchen. Breakfast in 30 minutes. "Sounds good." He smiled as she ran forward and kissed him hard with a loud smack and turned and ran out the bedroom door. New scene. "Second breakfast," Jojo said with a chuckle. "When your mom asked if we were hungry because we'd already had breakfast at Uncle Ricky's house and you quoted that line from Lord of the Rings, I knew for sure that you were my brother." "Why?" Logan asked as they leaned against the trampoline out in Jojo's backyard. "'Cause everyone in our family is always quoting lines from movies. Dad says it was a game he's played since he was a kid. You know, like, do or do not, there is no try. You know that one, don't you? Yoda said it. He wouldn't know that one. Exactly. Okay, how about this one? You almost had me. You never had me. You never had your car. Logan smiled. Fast and Furious. Again, too easy. Jojo thought hard. Here's one. Yeah, that's right. We're superheroes. You love us. Logan frowned and chewed his lip and then remembered. Kick ass. Pretty cool movie. Mom says it had too much foul language. I told her, well, duh, look at the title. Did she get mad at you for smarting off to her? Nah, she just laughed. She knew I was right. I don't smart off to her anyway, so she knew that wasn't how I meant it. Okay, so I got one. It's easy, but it has to be said. Be kind of hot if I won this thing, huh, Mr. Han? Be kind of hot if you focused, Jojo continued with the quote. Logan nodded his head with a smile. Yeah, well, after that, he finished. Karate Kid, they said together. That was an awesome movie, Logan said. I got to go to the premiere. Uncle Ricky, you know, he's good friends with Jackie Chan and Will Smith. Wow, that is so cool. Yeah, Jojo jumped onto the side of the tramp. Man, your mom is a good cook, he said as he stretched out on the trampoline and stared up at the bright blue sky. Logan leaned over the side of the tramp and rested his head in his hands. Yeah, she is. I guess I'm used to it. I guess I need to say thank you more like you and your dad just did for like 1,000,000 times. Jojo laughed. Always good to be grateful, Granddad always says. Anyway, so are you thinking what I'm thinking? Logan climbed on and lay down beside Jojo. I don't know. What are you thinking? Well, I'm thinking it's happening. I mean, my dad, your mom, just like we were hoping. I think your mom spent the night with my dad last night. Logan was pretty sure of the same thing, and he tried to think hard about what that might mean. He hoped his father didn't find out about it, or he'd probably kill her. He hoped his mom didn't tell his dad. No, she wouldn't do that. I think so too, Logan finally said. I hope that means that your dad is going to, like, rescue my mom. I hope so too. I mean, I know he wants to, and when my dad puts his mind to something, he does it. He sat up and nudged Logan. Look. Logan sat up quickly and followed Jojo's line of vision to the kitchen window. Master Mark was kissing his mom, and Logan's heart filled with joy and hope. He grinned. Cool. Yeah, totally, Jojo said. So, when my dad and your mom get married, do you think your mom would mind if I call her Mom? Oh, she won't mind. Do you think your dad will mind if I call him Dad? Nope, he won't mind. There's a guest bedroom across from my dad's study. I guess that will be your bedroom. It's a little smaller than my room, unless you want to just share a room, which is cool with me. Yeah, that's cool with me too, but maybe it would be good for me to have my own room. I don't care if it's small. You want to go see it? Sure. They jumped off the tramp just as Bella called from the door. Logan, it's time to go. Okay, he answered. The boys ran toward her and into the house. We'll be right back, they said as they ran through the living room and down the hall. Bella looked at Mark. What do you think they're up to? Mark frowned. I'm not sure, but I'll ask Jojo later. He pulled Bella to him once more. I don't want to let you go back to that house. She smiled. It's okay, Mark, really. Your love, it's made me feel strong. I don't feel afraid anymore. One more week. One, and then I'll be free. It's worth more it's worth one more week to be sure I can keep Logan away from him. Mark nodded and scooped up his keys and wallet from the bar top where he'd tossed them last night. You're right. We'll be strong together. One more week, and then you're mine. He kissed her hard and fast and let her go abruptly. Boys, let's go. New scene. Bella eyed the dining room table, checking off the mental list. Napkins folded perfectly, water glasses spotless, tablecloth smooth, Sunday china sparkling. She wouldn't set out the meal until he was home in case he was delayed in some way. Joey had called 2 hours ago to say he was 2 hours away, but to keep in mind that he had to drop off his girlfriend. Then he'd called back 15 minutes ago to say he was almost home. She glanced at the clock when she heard the garage door open. Turning quickly, she rushed back into the kitchen, busied herself at the sink, braced herself for the moment, and turned when the kitchen door opened. Gordon, welcome home. So, how was your trip? Gordon rolled his eyes at her. It was long and tedious, and I'm tired and I need a drink. Oh, of course. The regular? Yes, he mumbled as he dropped his suitcase by the kitchen door. Get that upstairs and unpack it for me, he ordered. Right away, Bella answered cheerfully. Why don't you have a seat in the den and I'll bring you your drink? Dinner is ready whenever you want to eat. I'm not hungry. Bella's smile faded for just a split second. Oh, okay, I'll just get that drink. Do that, he growled as he walked past her and headed toward the den. She poured a scotch and hurried after him. Here you go, she said cheerfully, handing it to him where he sat on the sectional sofa. His eyes narrowed at her as she placed the drink in his hand. What's got you in such high spirits? You like having me gone? She swallowed. No, I guess I was just excited to have you home. Miss me, huh? Maybe I should go away more often. Maybe that's the only way to have you appreciate me. He took a large swallow of the drink and set it down on the table in front of him and swung his legs around to rest on a cushion on the sofa. Like a cobra striking, he reached out, grabbed Bella by the wrist and jerked her forward, causing her to fall against him. At his post, parked on the street just down from the house, Joey sat up straight, mumbling a soft curse. Gordon grabbed Bella by the ponytail and tilted her head up to him. If you missed me so much, why haven't you tried to give me one of your welcome home kisses? He didn't wait for an answer. He took her mouth fiercely, then pulled her back so he could look at her face. Something's different. She couldn't help it. Her entire body trembled. Different? She asked, hating that she heard the fear in her voice again. Joey started the engine and put the car in gear and began backing out from behind the shrubbery. Gordon sniffed loudly. Did you change shampoos? Bella's face paled. Shampoos? Yeah, actually. They didn't have the one I usually use, so I bought some cheap stuff. He pulled her hair again, bringing her head closer to his nose, and breathed deeply. I don't like it. Me neither, really. I'm gonna throw it away and get my old stuff. He let her go. Good. Bella stood up and smoothed her clothes. Are you sure I can't get you something to eat? I'm sure. Just leave me alone. Okay, well, I'll go and pack for you. You do that. And where's my son? He's reading in his room. Well, tell him his father's home and have him come and greet me. Yes, of course. She forced a smile. Well, welcome home, Gordon. Logan will be right down. Joey pulled back in and turned off the engine. He was usually pretty calm and collected, but something about this man made Joey want to kill him. No, not kill him. He just wanted to mess him up really good. But he wanted him to live, because it's the shame that would hurt Gordon Landau the most. The shame of being worked over by a member of the Keno family. Man, this was a flaw, Joey knew. At least that's what his stepfather would say. Don't lower yourself, Joey boy, he thought. He shook his head. I got to get my head clear so I can do my job right. All I know is it's a good thing Mark isn't hearing all this crap. And Breeze, too. Breeze had been visibly upset Saturday night by the actions of a man she didn't know toward a woman she didn't know. He couldn't imagine the turmoil she'd been in if she saw the video he'd recorded over the past few weeks. And Mark appeared to others to be calm at all times, but Joey knew Mark had a dark side. A side that, when exposed, could prove to be lethal. Better to never let either one of them see the evidence he's collected of the abuse of Bella Landau. New scene. Court is now in session, the bailiff announced. Mark noted that though Gordon was inside the courtroom this time, he had stopped to shake hands with a few other attorneys who seemed to relish the fact that the great Gordon Landau stopped to chat with them. Gordon laughed and nodded, then hurried to his seat in the first row, of course. Gordon was so focused on his socializing that he hadn't even noticed that Judge Mayfield was frowning in his direction. When he finally looked up, he smiled at the judge and nodded as if they were old friends. The judge went through all the pre-hearing criterion and called the first case. Mark was on his own today, as Justin was in state court this morning. Fortunately, Mark felt relatively relaxed. He'd prepared well for the 3 cases he would present today, and while he looked over those cases, he heard the judge call Gordon's name. Gordon stood and smiled at the judge. Mr. Landau, do you have the medical paperwork I asked you to procure over the weekend? Yes, sir, I have it right here, Gordon said proudly. The judge motioned him forward, and Gordon approached and handed him the files. If you will recall, I asked you to have this on my desk first thing this morning. Yes, sir. I was running a little late and knew I would see you in court first thing this morning. So you simply bypassed my office? Yes, sir. The reason I wanted them on my desk was so I could look into the information and make a ruling this morning on the case. Now I will have to wait until later this afternoon. Sorry, sir, Gordon offered. Mark watched as the back of Gordon's neck turned bright red and his hand balled into a fist. This didn't bode well. May I assume that you now have the copies of the emails Mr. Kinder sent to the police department and to the webmaster of the porn site? Obviously perturbed, Gordon ran a hand through his short blonde hair. No, sir. I spent the weekend in Bakersfield obtaining the medical documents needed in the case. There was, no other time. In a firm your size, surely you have several assistants at your disposal to handle small yet important details such as these? Yes, sir, but we've been under a bit of a crunch lately. Yes, I know about the 2 murder cases your firm is handling. Nevertheless, dare I say that Mr. Kinder's life is equally important. I will expect the copies of those emails on my desk this afternoon. I'll make a ruling then. He stopped and nodded at the assistant district attorney. I'll be in touch with you on this one. Yes, Your Honor, the woman said. Mark heaved a sigh and hoped the judge's mood would improve as the day moved on. New scene. Eyes closed, Bella hummed as she soaked in the mound of bubbles. She couldn't stop thinking about Mark kissing her and holding her. She'd barely been able to make the bed, do the breakfast dishes, and put in a load of laundry. It was as if everything she did took just too much concentration when all she wanted to think about was Mark. She'd actually eaten spaghetti by candlelight on the floor of the living room. It was the best spaghetti she'd ever eaten. They'd had more wine, and for dessert, he'd offered her vanilla ice cream with chocolate sauce. She sighed as she remembered him pushing her back on the carpet and kissing her so softly, so tenderly. How could a man be so kind and so strong and so gentle? Lord, she was hopelessly in love with him. Bella rubbed the sponge over her body as she remembered every moment with Mark. She knew it was late and Logan would be home from school soon. She knew she had to get out and get dressed. Gordon would be home in a few hours. Funny how before, even the thought of Gordon coming home sent shivers down her spine. And not now. Somewhere in the past few days, she'd found courage. She'd found some kind of inner strength. Gordon was not going to torture her anymore. She would not hang her head anymore. She didn't deserve it. She didn't deserve to be hit, hurt, even raped by her husband, and he won't be her husband much longer. She let out the water and rose, smiling as she eyed her body in the mirror. She was tired of waiting. Mark and Joey said they needed evidence of Gordon's abuse to keep him from getting custody of Logan. Well then, if it's evidence they need, she'll give it to them. And she didn't feel a bit afraid. And that is the end of chapter 9.